Yo, 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 guys, what is up? And welcome back to another episode of the Warriors Invitational. It's your boy Gotham with my boy Chuck. What's up, Chuckster? Welcome back, man. How we doing? Friday, what is it, Friday afternoon right now? How you feeling, man?
Yeah, good. Caught the game last night, went back for the rewatch this morning, just getting into the tape as usual. Um, yeah, once again, just being all consumed by Warriors playoff basketball. How about
Best
you?
Best time of year, man. I feel you. It's been a nice slow Friday. Unfortunately slow on the work front. I need some stuff to start moving. But Matt, we miss you today, man. I'm sure Matt's having a fun Friday after a Warriors 24-point loss. But same old Warriors basketball series tied 1-1. Game two yesterday. Um, I feel like, in the last episode, we were kind of walking through like, hey, Warriors, all three of us predicted a Warriors dub. That was definitely a little bit more hopium than anything else, but kind of expected a Wolves kind of good offensive night, but overall like the Warriors were in that game for a large majority of it, even without scoring for the first like 6 minutes of the game. So but again, series tied 1-1. You're heading back to the Bay. A lot more questions than answers at this point, but Chuck, talk to me about game two, man. What was your reactions kind of watching that game and watching it back today? What have you seen on tape? And what were some of your reactions from last night?
Yeah, I think my main takeaway is I don't think it's a surprise that the Warriors are having a hard time scoring without Steph. We're seeing a lot of things we've seen before where Jimmy does not quite look like himself. I mean, I know he has tendencies to pass out of what could be shot attempts or, be really passive at times. That's nothing new, but I think it's been exacerbated by the injury. Other guys, other role players failing to hit their shots. Like we've seen Pods struggling, we've seen Moses Moody struggling, and none of that's really new to me. I think what stood out for me on the Warriors side was they were just not really together defensively. There was a lot of missed rotations. There was a lot of just like guys not really wanting to help on drives. And that was pretty jarring to me compared to game one, where game one they were just on tilt like the entire time. Everything was so crisp. They were rotating on a string and doing everything they could to contain these Wolves. And they just didn't have it this game, which I think was even more frustrating because after that 13-0 run, it was like pretty pretty evenly played until about like I think like 7 minutes left in the fourth is when the Wolves started to pull away. So you had a good like 40 minutes of game time where this was like within a reachable
Yeah.
distance. And, being down double digits with the kind of offense they have, it makes it tough. But I think if they had defended the way that they had defended in game one, they could have pulled away with this one. And that I think is the most frustrating part to me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, man. My takeaway from me last night, and this is a little unfair to kind of say it, but it is a little bit of a hypothetical. But this team does the Wolves with Steph here. That was my initial thought, just watching that game, and even going back to game one. But the Wolves just do not move me as a potent kind of threat of a team offensively. It feels like. The Warriors, as long as they're able to, they've been doing a good job of running them off the three-point line for the most part, especially just, trying to stay in games. And, when they are able to force the Wolves into some contested twos, some contested layups, they miss a lot of shots. They miss some open threes. So I still expect them to, still have kind of a heater game. You saw a little bit of that, coming out the gate yesterday, but overall, I think Steve Kerr, made a decision going into game two of like, look, we're playing the long game with the series. I think the Warriors best, like on the flip side of the Rocket series, where it was like, hey, we got to win this one fast, get the days back, get days off, and obviously that fell apart. But the way the Warriors win the series is obviously like we've talked about it many times. Everybody's talking about it, is getting at least to game six, and stretching the series out as much as you can. And so yesterday, it just felt like a classic kind of chess move from Steve Kerr. Of he played 14 guys in the first half. And the fact that, they were able to keep, like you said, just, they were in that game, they cut it all the way down to seven. Everybody kind of everybody's like, oh, Steve Kerr, like with the sub, like the hockey sub, when they had already kind of started to blow the lead before the substitutions. Like Jimmy had the turnover. I think JK missed a three. Pods had a turnover, and it went from 7 to like 12 or 13. Warriors call a timeout, make the hockey sub, and then Minnesota goes on another run to kind of put the game out of reach for the most part. So I thought it was a great game plan from Steve Kerr. Like you got your job, like you did your job. You got one in Minnesota. You're going home with a split. So for yesterday to just be kind of one of those, feel out games, see what sticks. And I think, for the most part, the Warriors got some answers. I thought, Kuminga, Trace Jackson Davis had some really impactful minutes, just with their size, their athleticism, being able to get to the rim, finishing there. But again, man, it comes down to the series is going to come down to who can step up. And Pods, Moody, GP2, they've had a rough go in the first two games. Pods, I think Moody has scored 1 point since game 6 of the Rocket series. So you're not going to win a game, let alone a series, without Steph Curry unless these guys step up. And you kind of saw that yesterday. It was on full display. I honestly, in the moment, I'm with you. Like Jimmy was definitely like playing still a little tentative, passing out of some shots still. But I'm also on like the line of like he's not going to overexert himself unless he's got to. Jimmy's still definitely banged up from the hip injury that he got in the Rocket series. So the fact that they were able to make this game. They cut it to 7. It just shows that you're a few good stretches away defensively, and it really just I mean like the Warriors they have to win the series on their defense, and you could see kind of spurts of that last night. And when they were able to stay in the game, it's just can you find enough offense to keep that momentum going because they can get stops in a row. They've shown that in the first two games. It's just about having enough offense to kind of keep your defense afloat. So. Overall, man, like I still feel very confident about the series, especially obviously Steph coming back is going to make this much easier, but I don't see why this team can't, win two games at home. Obviously you want to just get one of them, push it to 6, but ideally, go get greedy, win your two home games, role players step up, and this definitely is a series that the Warriors should be able to win, assuming guys can kind of find their rhythm again.
Yeah, and I think that you touched on the Wolves side of it as well. Like what I said with this game lingered. The Wolves should have put this away so quickly. I mean, with not only the lack of offense that the Warriors had, but they had a ton of really bad turnovers. Not just like, oh, ball slipped out of bounds kind of turnovers. Like they were just gifting transition possessions to Minnesota. Like I said too, they were not crisp defensively. Everything, like the whole formula was there for a blowout. And obviously, like Ant twisting his ankle had a big impact because he did not look like himself after he came back in. And they kind of just had to graft enough offense from there. But I think that was what, like 3, 4 minutes into the third quarter when that happened, if
Yeah.
I'm remembering
No,
correctly.
it was going into halftime, and they
When
was
he got hurt, it was
he
going
got
into half.
hurt going into half. It was the second quarter. He didn't come back for the rest of the half, and then started the second half. So he had, probably entire halftime and probably the last like 4 or 5 minutes of the second quarter. So, yeah,
Yeah, and that was the thing to me is like the game should have been well over by the time that even happened. Um, and I just think what we saw in game one, like even though I think the Warriors played really well defensively, I think they found ways to generate offense that were really big. Um, we didn't see a good performance from the Wolves in game one. And I don't think we saw a good performance last night because they play like obviously they just crushed out of the gate with like the 13-0 run in the first 3 minutes. And then they just kind of coasted. Um, and it seemed to me like they were kind of playing like, well, we have a big lead and Steph's not here. So like we don't really have to play that hard to win this game. Um, and team like a team that goes in for the kill worries me. Like that's why I was so worried about the Rockets game. The Rockets, what was it, game 6 when they just like blew the Warriors' doors off by the third quarter.
hmm
Like when Steve pulled all the starters and
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
like seeing that kind of killer instinct from a team like actually like made me really worried about them. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I think the Rockets have like figured something out and they're clearly motivated enough to like hit us while we're down. And I didn't see a whole lot of that last night. So that does give me some hope because I mean it's just well with the effort we saw, this should have been like this the finals what 24-point game. I mean, it was not, it was a 20-point game at times, and then they allowed the Warriors to get it all the way down to 7. Um like they just played good two-way basketball for like a good 3-minute stretch and almost erased the lead.
Yeah.
They could have kept going further if Jimmy didn't have that like brain fart traveling
Yeah,
turnover,
it was
and
tough.
then it was over from there. I mean, whatever, that happens. But yeah, I think it could have been better, and that does give me hope on the Warriors side. And we also got a in absentia for our buddy Matt. He has sent in our takes as his takes as well on this. His official game two reactions are fuck this shit. And Steph Curry is the only guy who can make the Coors Light can in your trash shine like a diamond, because how the hell is this group as good as it is when he plays? And I think Matt's he's got a point there. Like, it is genuinely crazy that this team can look so bad without him. And when he plays, just when you drop him in there, they look so dangerous.
I don't know, man. I think everybody was out like tweeting that, but the fact that this team looks like a contender with Steph Curry out there, respect, man. Like Steph, heal up, dude. We need you back as soon as possible. But there's gonna be a lot of guys that need to step up as you know it happens when your best player is out. But a conversation that we've had a lot of times. It's been kind of a season long thing here, but JK, man, Chuck, I know you're fighting the good fight out there, but just reopening the JK stuff, man. Like what did you see last night from Kuminga? Obviously, this first stint, it felt like was kind of the same old as before. We got out hustled for a couple rebounds, turned the ball over a couple times, but his second stint and onwards, the rest of the game, it was really good. It felt like, Kuminga was offensively, he was taking some good shots, getting to his spots, making the right cuts, making the right reads. I thought his on-ball defense also was pretty good. So what did you see, Chuckster, like especially watching that game back with Kuminga and also, I mean, we can get into other guys, but starting off with JK, like what did you see some things that, Kuminga can actually be an impact player in this series?
So what I saw was kind of all of the good and bad on like extreme displays last night. And what you have to keep in mind with Kuminga is that I think people think he's gotten like an unfair shake on this team. And what you have to remember is that Steve Kerr is like a hard line defensive focus and attention and effort kind of coach. If you can't consistently show those things, like, he's not going to play you. And I think it speaks to the leash Kuminga has that he does get playing time, because defensive focus, defensive effort are really just not there. And we've seen a lot of times like he's late closing out, he misses rotations, he'll kind of just stand in no man's land. He misses a lot of opportunities to box out. And those aren't things that are exclusive to him, but the guys who can make those mistakes are like Steph and Draymond and Jimmy, and even then they're going to get yelled at. Um, but they're the stars, like they make mistakes and you kind of move on because you know that they're capable of better. Kuminga gets the leash because of what he did scoring wise. Like, we saw he did a lot of good things, cutting, he was leaking out in transition really well. We obviously saw like the pull-up twos looked really nice, and it was all of the good offensively and the bad at the same time, because he doesn't move the ball well. He had one assist in 26 minutes last night. That wasn't even just like oh, he made good passes and guys didn't make shots. He just didn't really make passes. Um, and this is what frustrates me more, is that the way he scores when he has the ball in his hands requires the entire offense going to a halt. You just know he's going to look for his shot. And the defense knows that too. Like, they're willing to help off whoever to keep him, like they're like, we dare you to make this pass because he usually doesn't do it. And when you get him in those trap situations, like he had two times where he got trapped and forced to gather on the baseline. One time he threw it all the way behind him. Nikhil Alexander Walker picks it off, and it's a transition layup going the other way. And the other time he gets trapped, he tries to pass it to the guy in the corner. Jaden McDaniels picks it off. They're going the other way. They get another transition look. Like, we know guys on this team will have bad turnovers, but like when it's Steph and Draymond who are trying to like push the ball up the floor too fast and some guy picks it off, it pisses you off, but like the defense is going set the other way. If you dribble all the way down to the baseline and you pick it up and you throw it behind you and someone picks it off, it's going to be a layup like every time. So that I think is the problem to me with Kuminga is he has to be at this level of scoring, not only in the effort he showed off the ball, the way he pushed things in transition, but he has to be making all of his jump shots at like a high clip. And that's just to offset the mistakes that he has defensively and the ways that he hurts your offense with his decision making. And I get why people like see the potential where it's like, oh, he runs a pick and roll and he hits a pull up too, and then he's out in transition, he takes one dribble and he gets a dunk, or he gets Rudy Gobert on the switch and he just drives right past him and slams on his head. Like all of that stuff is awesome. Like don't get me wrong, I'm not like rolling my eyes when he does that. The problem is that he has to do that every game just to like be a neutral player in terms of his impact. So yeah, we're desperate for scoring right now, and anyone who can create a shot is going to get more of a look. But until he locks in on the defensive side of the floor and cleans up these mistakes, I just don't really see how he's a guy who can swing this series positively.
Yeah, I mean that's totally fair, and I'm I know Chuck, you have a great thread out there on the JK stuff right now on Twitter, so everybody just go check that out. I think it highlights kind of everything Chuck was saying right there. But yeah, man, my thing with Kuminga is it's always been like the discourse has been cooked for a while, and it's a camp of people that are arguing that the guy has talent versus the people more on our side of like, all right, man, like we need to see this more consistently, and that's the biggest thing. And you're gonna need to do this over at least the next two games to give yourself even a shot to survive this series without Steph. And look, I my thing with Kuminga has always been on the consistency side of things. We know what he can do. We've seen it in spurts. But like you said, like yesterday was a great example of that. You know, is he going to shoot 80% from the field the rest of the series? Probably not. Is he going to continue to have some of these turnovers, these lapses on defense? Probably. So it's going to even itself out into a way that, you know, his deficiencies are going to get highlighted. And I will say though, like you said, just getting out in transition, being able to run, just having another athletic wing out there with against an athletic team is always going to be somebody that's going to get a look. And look, man, nobody is stepping up right now. Pods have been struggling, Moody's been struggling, GP's been struggling, Post has barely been able to stay on the floor. So in the larger sense of like, yeah, I feel like a lot of people are like, well, Kuminga's, you guys say this, and this, but nobody else is stepping up. I think that's a fair kind of point right now. Like what JK has given you in game two is more than what any other young guy did so far in the series. So, I hope at least for Kuminga's sake that again, we've said this multiple times since his return from the injury, and I think the injury definitely didn't help out with him getting reintegrated with the team, especially when they went on that hot stretch with Jimmy. But you want to get paid the big bucks, man. Like this is your time to shine. This is where people make their money. You have the opportunity right now with Steph out to get rid of all the bullshit that was, the conversation in the past and have two good games at home to try and, get your team back in a position to survive this stretch without Steph Curry. So I'm excited for it. I think I wouldn't be shocked if Kuminga ends up being in the starting lineup on tomorrow night. And I feel like he's earned it at least, at this point of like, guys that are stepping up so far. So um excited for it, nervous for it because we know how quickly that can kind of turn. But I think JK has definitely played himself into back into the conversation of can you provide impact minutes for us at a stretch and be a consistent scorer? Because honestly, nobody else, even Jimmy, every shot he's taken has been kind of tough. He's been had to work a lot. So anybody that can step up will be should be considered, and I think Kuminga did enough to do prove that in game two.
Yep, and I think you made a good point too, is like when I talk about the negative parts of his game, I don't mean to say like, oh, there's no chance that he can make a positive impact. The thing is that you like people talk about him as if he's just this instant positive impact player who's just being like unfairly treated. Like I was listening to the Zach Lowe show and they were talking about last night's game and they're like, "Oh wow, look, it's crazy what happens when his confidence isn't completely destroyed." And I just think that's like a really unfair characterization of like why he doesn't play, or why he struggles in general. And on top of that, you're in desperation mode right now. Like you saw it last night. You need to scramble for anything. Like you pointed out, Kerr played 14 guys in the first half. Like he emptied the clip in terms of trying to figure out what would work on this team. And one thing is I think is for sure is that if you can find a way to get him to like dial in defensively and stop making the easy mistakes, I think he's like pretty instantly at least like a neutral player. Because if he's not a liability on the defensive side of the floor, if he's at least just like average, then the cutting, the screening, the transition play, all of that can make him an impact guy. And if he starts hitting more jump shots, then you're like, wow, okay, now we can really make something out of this. And it does make sense for them to try to figure out if he can do that. But this is out of a like sense of desperation. It's not like, oh, well, let's just, let Moses take 10 shots and hope he hits like five or six of them. Or, let's just let Guy Santos go crazy. Like those guys can't create in the way that Kuminga can. Um, so it does like it, you are incentivized to find that out because you do need it. And the struggle is that now you're betting on a guy who has consistently not really showed focus on defense and inconsistent effort. You're betting on him just like flicking a switch in the playoffs. So there is a world where he does, flip that switch and the Warriors benefit and they look great. And that would be pretty unbelievable. Like it would be a real a real story. Like it would be something that could flip this series on his head because that's the kind of potential he has. But it's a really hard thing to rely on. Like you as a coaching staff, like it's hard to, justify to other players who are, trying to make less mistakes and they're just not hitting shots. And, if they're losing minutes to the guy who's consistently making mistakes, and the clear reasoning is, well, let's just hope he stops doing that. Like that kind of thing can impact a lot of players, because I love Moses. I love Guy Santos. Like they don't make those mistakes, but they're probably sitting there thinking like, hey, I can like keep it clean defensively and I just got to find a rhythm and I can hit my shots. Like that's what they're telling themselves. And so when they're watching a guy just like standing around on defense and, not making the effort and hustle plays needed, they're probably getting pretty frustrated. So it's a difficult balance to strike. And yeah, I agree with you. I think it's worth trying to, maybe like bring him in as the sixth man or, try starting him because, as I said before, it's desperation mode until
Yeah.
Steph gets back. You got to try to figure something out. And even if, the Jimmy and John JK minutes have not really worked out, I think you got to try to find a way to make it work right now because your options are pretty thin. Um, one guy I do think is worth shouting out, who I think kind of flew under the radar, TJD, just out of
Yeah.
fucking nowhere. Like he has been pretty much out of the rotation since Jimmy arrived. They've gone, pretty exclusively small ball, and then Quentin Post and Kevon Looney get the rest of the center minutes. Um, they tried starting Quentin Post. I thought that was a fine risk. And then they got devastated in the 3 minutes he was on the floor, pulled him, and he never saw the floor again.
Yeah.
Like that's the way it goes. TJD was physical. I thought he was really, really good on the pick and roll, like having that vertical lob threat that can get in behind Rudy is so important. He was really, really good as a screener. He's still got some decision making and defense stuff to clean out, but you can't like nobody you're playing right now is perfect. Like nobody you're scrabbling for is perfect. So if you have a guy who can give you offense as the roll man or running out in transition, it's worth the try right now. If they don't start Kuminga, I think that's who they're going to start with. I think if they want to keep trying to go big, I think they would just start TJD and be spamming Jimmy TJD pick and
Pick
roll.
and
They
roll.
ran a lot of 4-5 pick and roll with Draymond and TJD. That was pretty effective. They ran handoffs with him and pods. So, like I said, we're in try everything mode, and he's got to be part of that. And also my last Kuminga thought from our absentee host Matt. His thoughts are stop fucking smiling, but good job in the second half.
So true, man. That one did. I was like, dude, he smiled after getting fouled, and you just knew he was gonna miss at least one, miss both free throws. You're like, dude. But regardless, JK did step up. Overall, man, just kind of pivoting to game three. Because obviously Steph's out for two, three, and four at the very least. It's going to be game five as well. So the thought here was you got to win one out of four to give yourself a chance. So you're at one out of three now, but really these two home games are your kind of final stand. If you're down 3-1 going back to Minnesota without Steph, it just doesn't feel like you're going to have an opportunity to win that game. But can this team win one of the next two, man? Chuck, how you feeling? Like what adjustments do you think Steve Kerr, based on what you saw last night, what adjustments do you think the Warriors can make going into game three to, come out, with obviously with a better start, but, just finding enough offense to make sure that they can, hold Minnesota defensively down and just put up enough points to get over the line.
Yeah, so circling back to what we saw, I think you didn't have Steph. You're not expecting to win either of these games. You came away with one. You got home court. I don't think that can be discounted in how important it is. And now you're heading back home. You're off two pretty subpar performances in my mind from Minnesota. Obviously, game two was way better than game one, but I don't think it was that great either. Um, I think you clearly outplayed them in one game. And then in game two, neither team looked particularly great. It's just that one team didn't have Steph Curry and the other team, pretty much had everybody. I mean, granted, Ant got hurt, didn't look himself. Like that's an issue. But Shams says all systems go for Saturday on him. So uh the Warriors are kind of still playing with house money. Like when you don't have Steph and everything's on the table, you get to try so many different things. No one's going to fault you for losing. Um, all the pressure is really on Minnesota, and I didn't see a team that looked like they were responding to that pressure last night. Like they did not truly put this game away until the fourth quarter when they really should have. There are a lot of just like effort things that I saw where, like they had easy transition opportunities being given up off made baskets. Like I think Kuminga had like a dunk and a layup off a made basket. That was just pretty inexcusable. There were possessions where it was like I remember right after Buddy cut the lead down and the Wolves got a basket, they got a stop, like lead was back up to 10. And then Jaden McDaniels like took an early shot clock step back three over Draymond. And it's just like, what is
What are you
happening
guys
right
doing?
now? It's like I get it, Ant's hurt, but like Julius Randle is balling. You guys are really good at drive and kick. Like they had a lot of possessions that, made me look twice at this team. So still, I'm operating on the assumption that the earliest Steph can be back for is game 6. And if that's the case, you're still, you got to win 1 out of 3. Last night, we talked about it before, like last night was the testing phase, seeing what works. I think what you saw is that Jonathan Kuminga can be an effective scorer and that Trace Jackson Davis needs to play more. Quentin Post, not really his series. So I think the good thing is you figured some things out. And there's still going to be some fine tuning for game 3, but I still believe that they can win one of these home games. And if you go back, obviously 2-2 with, a best of 3 with 2 of those games being in Minnesota isn't ideal, but that has really opened up the possibility of Steph returning. That's what you got to be aiming for. Like, you can't drop both of these because then the series is over. I feel good that they can pull off one of these 2 games at home because I didn't see a ton of focus from the Wolves. And we've seen this team, just in this last Houston series, like the Warriors had 2 extremely unserious back-to-back performances to let the Rockets back in the series and then just dialed in for game 7. So we've seen them rebound their focus before, and I'm confident that they can do it and pull one of these games out.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. My confidence isn't shaken in the series. I will say I think they have to treat game 3 as a must-win game. And I'm with you. I think Minnesota has more of the pressure in terms of just coming out of the series. Like if it's, 3-2 Minnesota, Steph's coming back game 6, like they're gonna have to want to try and finish the series in 5, and just rule out any possibility of Steph coming back. But you have to treat game 3 as a must-win game, in my eyes, because you're gonna need one big Jimmy game, and that obviously takes a lot of effort, and I think it has to be in game 3, because if you can go up 2-1, you'll be able to figure out, going into game 4, really like what works, based on how you win in game 3. But I think that also plays into why yesterday was such a still a win in my eyes, to give Steve Kerr the opportunity to just see what sticks. Because this the coaching kind of mismatch, and right now the coaching mismatch or the coaching matchup is going to be a big, I think, thing, a big talking point, because Steve Kerr is probably one of the greatest, series adjustments guy, mid-game adjustments guy we've seen in the postseason. And you've given him kind of some things, like you said, some things you can take away going into game 3. So I think if you can steal game 3 at home, get a better shooting night from your role guys, then you're going into game 4. You already took care of business of at least pushing this to 6. So you've got those extra days off. You bought Steph some time. But now you're going into game 4 where Minnesota has to win this game or they risk going down 3-1 to a non-Steph Warriors. And all of a sudden, pressure's fully on them. You've got some stuff that you figured out. You've gotten your Jimmy game, your role guys are getting rhythm back. So I think game 3 is going to be really huge. Again, it feels like one out of these next 2 has to happen. If you go down 3-1 going back to Minnesota, it's pretty much a wrap. I don't see them being able to pull another road game out without Steph. But if you can just get this, if you can somehow, I have full confidence that they can, figure this out to get to 3-1 going back to Minnesota. But that starts with game 3, man. I think game 3 is going to be a huge swing game in this series. And if you can find a way to win that one, you're in a real good spot. So I'm excited to kind of see the intensity that they come out with. Draymond, obviously a lot of stuff going on, in game 2, almost getting tossed to obviously the stuff from the fans, terrible. You had to see it, but Draymond's also in a spot where he's 2 technical fouls away and 2 flagrant points away from a suspension. So it's another thing to watch out for. But I feel like Draymond with his back against the wall, you like your chances in a game that you really need to get. And so I expect to see a locked in Draymond, locked in Jimmy, and have some of these young guys step up. So, feeling good about going into game 3. You did what you had to do going into game, on the first 2 on the road. So, if you're looking at the series from kind of a bird's eye view, Warriors are still ahead. Obviously, you don't have Steph, but if you told us coming back, going, you didn't have Steph, you still stole one in Minnesota, you'll take it. So. Let's go, man. Predictions. How we feeling for game three tomorrow night? What's your prediction, Chuck? And what's the series looking like going into game four?
Yeah, I think I feel pretty good that they're taking game three. I think they did it like the cost of losing that game is worth it when you think about what I think they found out rotation wise. As I said, with if you press the right buttons, Kuminga can make an impact. And Trace Jackson Davis looked unbelievable. I think you've pretty firmly ruled out Quentin Post in this series, unfortunately. Um, I think you found a lot of good things in this one. And, part of it too is like, I just have to believe that, especially Pods, but Moody as well, like these guys cannot stay this cold. Pods, I think, is getting good looks and they're just going to have to start falling sooner or later. Moses is playing like he's got the yips. So I don't know if they need to like get a sports psychologist in there or something. Like he's taking and missing shots that I've never seen him take before. He's having misses from three that I've never seen before. It's really kind of astounding.
It's
But
it's been terrible, man. Moses looks like he forgot how to play basketball, which is at the worst time possible.
yeah, and I'm not like trying to make excuses, but it's just like, oh man, like of course when we need someone to step up most, he's just like completely forgotten how to be an effective player when he was like one of the guys who keyed the turnaround of this season. Um, which is brutal, but I
We
think the
haven't
deep
had it. I correct me if I'm wrong, Trey. I don't think we've had a stretch where all the young guys have looked good at all the same. Like Pods early on in the season struggled, Moody struggled kind of early on, and then now JK. Obviously, we've seen the struggles and getting out of the rotation. It feels like we haven't had the second timeline guys kind of step up and all start to click at the right time. And look, man, I can't ask for a better moment than right now to kind of cash in on that two timeline plan as we've grown accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, it's wild because like we all saw like the starting lineup of like the three stars plus Pods and Moody was crushing. Like
Yeah,
they were just unbelievable. And those guys were playing so well. Yeah, obviously JK was out, but even when he came back, like he didn't look that great. And then TJD was just like out of the rotation entirely. Like he was on cleanup duty. And now it's like Moses is bordering on unplayable because he's just not able to hit a shot. Um, Pods, like he's still doing a lot of really good things defensively. I don't want to, paper that over because he's such a good help defender. He's
mhm.
so good at funneling.
Pod
But
still had like 6 rebounds, 6 assists, couple steals yesterday. So it's for Pod. It's really just been the scoring, but he's definitely been the most consistent young guy, even when the shots not been falling.
yeah, like he still finds a way to make an impact without hitting the shots, but seeing him not hit the shots for this long of a stretch is kind of crazy. Um, and then yeah, like somehow, Kuminga is back and he's leading the team in scoring for a playoff game. And then you have TJD who comes in and just balls the fuck out. Like, looked like the most athletic player on the floor, not named Anthony Edwards. So, uh, yeah, I mean, it just is like one of those like it's like they're just moving in like a rotation where it's
Yeah.
like yeah, like the moment one of them starts to play well, like another one has to stink. So it's like they're only allowed to have two of them playing well at a given time. It's just like
Gonna need that kind of solar eclipse moment where it all kind of aligns in one and they all figure it out. But hopefully that's game three, man. But I'm with you. I feel good about a game three win. I just think Steve Kerr with, like you said, just getting the chances to kind of see what works, see what doesn't, get a shortened rotation going tomorrow. And then again, I think we're gonna see more aggression from Jimmy and Draymond. I think they know. I think the magnitude of tomorrow night's game is going to be huge. And so if you're able to go up 2-1 and then go into game four with a chance to go up 3-1 without Steph, like that's enough to kind of get enough momentum to get you over the line. So I think game three is huge. I think the Warriors get some home cooking, find some rhythm, and get back into the series, get ahead, and buy themselves that game six mark by getting their second win in the series. But score prediction, man. How you feel, Chuck?
ah man, I don't know. I think they'd have to win ugly. So I think if they find a way to win, it's going to be like 100 to 95. that kind of deal. If they lose this one, it's going to be like last night where they're going to get boat raced and it's going to be like 115 to 90.
Yeah.
So,
No, I'm with you. I think the series is either going to be Minnesota blowouts or Warriors just knife fight wins. I think
yeah.
tomorrow's a knife fight type of win. I'm gonna go 103, 90, 97. A little 6 point win, hold them under 100 points. Game one, they won 99-88. It's going to be, games like that. But, we've seen this team hold, we've seen the defense hold teams under 93 times. They're going to have to do that a couple more times to win the series, but it's not out of the impossible. But we'll see, man. Warriors Wolves game three tomorrow, 5:30, I want to say, but we'll see. It's we got Saturday, Monday, and then see what we got going into Wednesday next week. We should have some more news on Steph coming in the next few days, and then the reevaluation. So hopefully Steph's back till game six, man. Just got to find a way to survive, get one. But till then, guys, we'll be here. We will be breaking down the series on the Warriors Invitational. Drop your thoughts, follow, like, whatever. Keep following us. But until the next episode, guys, peace.